When people think about the fall of Rome, they imagine barbarian hordes storming the gates, Goths sacking cities, Vandals burning libraries, the collapse of civilization. But empires don't fall because of external enemies. They fall because of internal rot. And Rome's rot began in the one place empires can't afford weakness: the currency. For 4 centuries, the Roman denarius was the most trusted money in the Mediterranean world, 95% pure silver, standardized weight, accepted everywhere from Hadrian's Wall to the Nile. It wasn't just money, it was the promise that held the empire together. But by 260 AD, that promise was broken. The denarius, the coin that paid legions, funded roads, built aqueducts, contained 5% silver. The rest was bronze, coated with a thin silver wash. Rome had spent 2 centuries slowly destroying its own currency. And when the money died, the legions died with it. This is the story of how currency collapse killed the Roman military, and why every empire that debases its money follows the same path to destruction. The Roman denarius was introduced around 211 BC during the Second Punic War. Rome needed a standardized coin to pay soldiers fighting Hannibal across the Mediterranean. 4.5 grams, 95% silver, consistent purity. It worked, because soldiers trusted it. Silver is real. You can weigh it, test it, trade it anywhere. When Rome transformed from republic to empire under Augustus, the denarius became the foundation of military power. Professional soldiers served 20 to 25-year careers. The contract was simple: fight for Rome, receive steady wages in real silver, retire with land or cash. By 100 AD, Rome maintained 28 legions, over 300,000 professional soldiers. The military payroll alone cost approximately 50 million denarii annually. The system functioned because the money functioned. Soldiers in Britain received the same denarius as soldiers in Syria. Same weight, same silver content, same value. But maintaining an empire is expensive. Border wars, infrastructure, bureaucracy, public grain distributions. And in the 2nd century AD, costs exploded. The Parthian War in the 160s cost 40 million denarii. The Germanic invasions drained another 60 million. The Antonine Plague killed millions, collapsing tax revenues. Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced a choice: raise taxes and trigger riots, cut military spending and face invasion, or reduce the silver content in the denarius. He chose debasement. Silver content dropped from 90% to 83%. Not enough to panic anyone immediately. The coins looked the same, but 7% less silver meant Rome could mint 7% more coins from the same reserves. It seemed like a solution. It was actually a trap. Because once you start debasing currency to cover costs, you can never stop. The next emperor faces the same revenue shortfall, so he debases further. Then the next emperor does the same. By 211 AD under Emperor Caracalla, the denarius was 50% silver. By 260 AD under Gallienus, it was 5%. The coin that built an empire had become a lie wrapped in metal. Soldiers aren't economists, but they understand value. When denarii started losing silver content, merchants immediately adjusted. Bread that cost 2 denarii now cost 4. Wine that cost 3 now cost 6. The soldiers could see it, feel it. Their wages bought less every year. And they did what anyone does when their employer pays them in depreciating currency. They demanded raises. Emperor Caracalla responded in 211 AD by increasing military pay from 300 to 450 denarii annually. 50% raise. The soldiers celebrated briefly because Caracalla had simultaneously debased the denarius to 50% silver. He paid them 50% more coins worth 50% less silver. Net effect, 0 real increase. The soldiers figured this out within months. Prices rose to match the new coin's actual silver content. The raise evaporated in 2000 AD. Caracalla was assassinated by his own soldiers. The next emperor tried to restore the denarius to full silver. He couldn't. The treasury didn't have enough reserves. He was killed within 14 months. This pattern repeated for 50 years. Between 235 and 284 AD, Rome had over 50 emperors. Most reigned less than 3 years. Most were proclaimed by legions demanding better pay. Most were assassinated when they couldn't deliver. Behind every political assassination was a financial crisis. Soldiers being paid in worthless coins. By 260 AD, the situation had become absurd. The denarius contained 5% silver, barely more than a bronze token. Soldiers started refusing wages entirely. Merchants wouldn't accept the coins at any price. Military camps developed their own parallel economies. Soldiers demanded payment in old coins with higher silver content, or in gold or in goods. Official imperial currency became worthless in the very camps it was supposed to supply. Regional commanders began minting their own coins with higher silver content to keep their troops loyal. The Gallic Empire broke away in 260 AD, partly because they could pay their soldiers in better money than Rome could. The empire fragmented because the currency fragmented. When a government can't pay its soldiers in real money, those soldiers stop being soldiers. They become mercenaries. By 268 AD, this transformation was complete. When the Heruli tribe invaded Greece, the emperor sent Roman legions to defend Athens. The legions arrived and demanded payment up front in gold, not denarii. The provincial governor didn't have gold. The legions refused to fight. The Heruli sacked Athens. The Roman legions watched. This was the empire's death spiral made visible. For 4 centuries, Roman soldiers had fought because Rome paid reliably. Now Rome couldn't pay, so soldiers stopped fighting Rome's wars. They fought for whoever could pay in real money. Regional strongmen started hiring legions. Directly, Germanic warlords paid in gold and land. The soldiers were loyal to whoever signed their checks, not to Rome. By 300 AD, Rome faced a recruitment crisis. Roman citizens wouldn't join the legions. Why would they? Military pay was worthless. Veterans retired broke. The promised land grants never materialized. Emperor Diocletian tried solving this with conscription that failed. So Rome turned to hiring barbarians. Germanic tribes received payment in gold, land, or plunder rights, not debased denarii by 350 AD. Roughly half of Rome's military was foreign mercenaries. They were loyal to their tribal commanders who paid them, not to Rome. The consequences were predictable. In 378 AD, at the Battle of Adrianople, Emperor Valens commanded an army that was half Gothic mercenaries. When the battle turned against Rome, the Gothic soldiers switched sides. They joined the invading Goths. Why? Because the invaders offered better terms. Valens died. 2/3 of the Eastern Roman army was destroyed, not by superior tactics or overwhelming numbers, by soldiers making rational economic decisions. When your own troops calculate that the enemy pays better, you've already lost. The Western Roman Empire didn't fall in a single dramatic moment. It decomposed over decades. In 410 AD, Visigoths sacked Rome. The Visigoth army included thousands of former Roman soldiers, men who'd served in the legions, received worthless pay, and left to fight for someone who compensated them fairly. In 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, a teenager named Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a Germanic general named Odoacer. Odoacer's demand wasn't ideological. It was financial. He wanted land for his soldiers, real payment. The Roman Senate couldn't provide it. The treasury was empty. The currency was worthless. So Odoacer took power and distributed Italian land to his troops directly. The Western Empire ended. Not with a battle, not with a siege, with a payroll dispute. The Eastern Roman Empire, later called Byzantine, survived for another 1,000 years. Why? Because Constantine had introduced the solidus in 312 AD, a gold coin of consistent purity. The East stabilized its currency. The soldiers trusted it. The military stayed loyal. The West kept paying in debased silver. The soldiers left. The empire collapsed. Same starting point. Different currency policies. Opposite outcomes. The lesson was clear. You cannot maintain an empire on fake money. Fast forward to 1917. The Russian Empire is fighting World War I. Soldiers at the front are paid in rubles, but the ruble is inflating rapidly. Their families are starving. In March 1917, Russian soldiers mutiny. They stop fighting for the Tsar. When the Bolsheviks promise land and bread, the soldiers switch sides. The Russian Empire collapses, not because of military defeat, because the currency collapsed first. 1923, Weimar Germany pays its military in marks. By November, a soldier's monthly wage can't buy a loaf of bread. When the Nazis promise economic stability, the military doesn't resist. Currency collapse created the conditions for extremism. 2019, Venezuela pays military officers in bolivars. Worthless bolivars, officers make $10 to $15 monthly, so they turn to drug trafficking, gold smuggling, protection rackets. The Venezuelan military becomes a criminal enterprise because the government can't pay real wages. The pattern is identical across centuries. Debase currency, soldiers lose faith, loyalty collapses, empire fragments. The United States military budget is $850 billion annually, paid in dollars. Since 2000, the dollar has lost 35% of its purchasing power. Military families struggle with inflation. Housing costs, healthcare costs. The U.S. Army missed its 2023 recruiting goals by 25%. Young Americans increasingly won't serve for wages that lose value yearly. The response? Increased reliance on private military contractors. Mercenaries paid significantly more than regular soldiers. It's the same pattern Rome followed. First, debase the currency. Second, soldiers lose faith. Third, hire mercenaries. Fourth, mercenaries become independent power centers. Fifth, the empire fragments. We're currently at stage 3. Rome didn't fall to barbarians. Rome fell because it destroyed its own money. The Denarius was the promise holding the empire together. When that promise broke, the soldiers left. Every emperor who tried paying soldiers in fake currency died violently. Every empire that debases its money eventually loses its military. The pattern never changes, only the names and dates.